Sorry, you're going to sandwich?
Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. And I believe we're expecting Chair Ford to join us at some point. I assume she's got the information she needs.
Or an item.
I see the directors are all here, so I will move then to item 4, which is Horizon report from the closed. Yes, Director Clark, please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to confirm if Director Rainbow has returned.
Just go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
And there are no items for Horizon report for this meeting at this point. So the consent agenda is item 5. And I actually saw something in the minutes, so I would like to ask about that. It's just a question. If you're with me at the bottom of page 5, I thought, is that just a fragment? Where are we? People in minutes. So looking at the meeting minutes under Electoral Area Directors Committee closed meeting, it was moved and seconded and so on. And then there's this reference to law enforcement. Yes, Director Rainbow.
I'm not sure where this is. I'm looking at the minutes. What number item am I looking at?
It's item number 3. It's at the bottom of page 5 of 83 in the original package.
Yeah, I'm looking at the HDMI. Okay, I found it. Yeah.
I just thought that fragment probably didn't belong there.
Almost.
Oh, okay. So that's the reason that we're closing. That never mind.
Okay.
I need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll move that.
Okay, Director Mack, thank you very much. Seconded by Tony Rainbow. Anyone opposed? All in favor, motion carried. Business arising from the minutes. I don't believe there's any. Staff reports and other business, 7.1. This would be CAO verbal update. CAO Helmer, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing.
Thank you. Information report, quarterly development applications report. I'm expecting, are we bringing any staff on for that? Pages 13 to 20 in your package.
I'll move receipt of this report.
So moved, seconded by, oh, here's Director Needham. Welcome back. We have a motion to accept the quarterly development applications report. Seconded by I'll second it. Any opposed? Motion carried. Should I move on to item 7.3? Everyone with me?
Yep.
Okay. The meeting calendar,
Yeah, and I'll move that as presented.
Second,
seconded by Director Rainbow. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Yep. That one works for me too. The next item is a request for a decision, Northern Development Initiative Trust 2022 Grant Writing Support Program. I'd like to move that motion. This has been an absolutely fabulous for us.
I'll
And I see,
second that.
well, hold on for a second. I see Patricia's here. She might have a word up, and I see Lee Allen as well. Come and gone. Oh man, my eyeballs are starting to jiggle, you guys.
Sorry about that, Chair.
No, that's
When they move around in there, it's hard to click the right one.
I do believe that Ms. Westerholm would be here to talk about the grant writing support, item 7.4 in our agenda. And I'm just going to move there on my agenda. I was just singing the praises of this program. Would you like to say something, Ms. Westerholm?
Thanks. There is a staff report that you have, a request for decision on this program, and essentially it includes the motions that were carried at the board meeting in December, and then a new recommendation that just accounts for the funding of $1,356 to be granted from Electoral Area B Select Funds, which represents the portion of that required minimum community contribution, Area B of contribution.
Thank you. I know Director Demare and I are both really pleased with the way this program is going. And so I will certainly make the motion for $1,356 be granted from Electoral Area B Select Funds towards the NDIT application.
I'll second that, Vivian.
Okay, thank you, Director Playfair. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. Yeah. Thank you. And it was a very good report and I appreciate it. Are we ready to move to item 7.5, November, December Select Funds Report?
And I'll
Yes,
move
Chair,
receipt of
we
that.
Sorry, I was hearing two voices at once. I see Director Rainbow's hand and I also CAO Helmer could go. Could I start with CAO Helmer, please? Because it's probably pertaining to what I just did wrong.
No, Chair, you didn't do anything wrong. Thank you. I was just letting you know that Director LaFrance is available for this report and the next report as well, if you wanted her admitted.
Yes, please. And we'll just hold on until she gets here. The budgets. Good morning, Director LaFrance. And I see Director Rainbow. Please go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, just before I second Russell's motion, I just had a question, sort of procedural thing. I do have a couple of questions about this, but I'd like to talk to Suzanne offline about them. But this particular one, you see, Furry Creek Beach Park, provision of toilet facilities, $33,629.32. That was what was actually spent and paid. And then further down, 2021 allocations committed, Furry Creek Beach Park, provision of toilet facilities, 6,370. Now, what that is we approved up to 40,000. So there's 6,370 not being spent. So my question is that something I can just deal with Suzanne offline, or do I need a motion to return that to my general fund?
I go to Suzanne LaFrance first.
Sure, through the chair, it depends on how the resolution was worded. If it's up to a certain amount and the project is deemed to be done, we can remove that now. If costs do come back, we can add them in still, but we can remove that to your available balance if the project is done.
Yeah, the project is completed. There won't be any further charges to it. So
Okay, so
Okay,
that
so
is the $6,000 for the
6,370 and 68 cents. Don't forget the 68 cents. And the other question I have is for staff is Furry Creek Open Spaces public walkway repair on Furry Creek Dyke, up to $2,000. That work was done. Angela's department took care of it. It was done a year ago. So I don't know how it was paid for.
yeah, we don't either. We don't have record of it. So I'll contact Angela.
So I'll just leave that with you then, Suzanne. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's me. Thank you. Oh, actually, there are a couple of other questions. Again, 2020 allocations committed, survey costs associated with Jack Webster Bridge, and then statutory right of way with Jack Webster Bridge. I have no idea whether that money was required. That dates back to when Graham was with us, and I had it approved in case he needed it. I don't know, was it needed? Can I have that money back? Thank you, Chair. That's my question.
And as ECAO Helmer may have an answer for you. Please go ahead, Melanie.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think I'll be better for that one because I don't think the bills will have gotten to Suzanne yet. But we did, as part of the project, need to have the survey completed that went to the board at the last meeting with the surveyor's information on the bridge and the road and the associated works. And so there will be some charges that will need to come out of there, and the invoice should be forthcoming shortly, but that work is completed now. So once those invoices go through and are made available to the finance department, then any residual would be available to be returned. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I did have a question about the area B select. Suzanne, I just want to make sure that the allocations towards the bottom of the page that are listed as wildfire equipment and fuel reserve, I'd like to use some of that for some of the communities that are working on fuel mitigation and so forth. Are there any restrictions on that money? Aside from that they're intended for wildfire equipment and fuel reserve?
I'd have to review. They were put aside a while ago by a previous Area B director, and I have to review that resolution.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sherry, you're muted.
Thank you. Any other comments on select funds report? Motion to receive. I'll make the motion to receive funds report
And I'll second that.
by Director Matt. No one opposed, motion carried. And now could we look at 7.6 draft electoral area budgets? And I'll mute myself and try and remember to take myself off.
Okay, so these are the very, very preliminary first draft budgets for the EAD services. And the EAD services are civic addressing, building inspections, elections / UBCM, emergency planning, and the electoral areas community park service. These do have the 2022 completed role assessment values within them. So that first, the information pages before the actual budget show the apportionment based on the 2022 completed role. The non-market assessment changes have not been reviewed yet because this role was just released, I think January 1st. So I will do that for the February meeting and attempt to do it for the January board meeting. So you'll see information there as well. The requisition review, and I just want to reiterate that these are preliminary and subject to change, but civic addressing, we don't have a requisition this year. I'll get into more detail on that in a bit. Building inspection remains flat to 2021, and I'll get into the reasons for that when we discuss the cost center. And elections has a very small 4% increase, just to ensure that the 2026 election year, there is enough funding in there in the reserve. And I included the 5-year plan for elections and UBCM cost center, so you can see how the revenue, the requisition flows into the reserve for elections every 4 years. And then we have emergency planning, which shows an increase of 12%. However, all of these budgets so far, the increases don't affect the residential tax rate. That residential tax rate hasn't been increasing, it's been decreasing because of the growth of the assessment base. Of course, I haven't reviewed the non-market changes of the assessment base. So to really, I haven't been able to fully commit to say that there is room to have increases without hitting the taxpayer. But again, I'll have that to you in the next meeting, discussion on non-market change assessment increases. So I think I'll just jump right into the budget. If people want to go to civic addressing, and that would be on, so we'll go to the civic addressing budget. It's just, I don't have a numbering system, of course. Let me see if I can find the exact page number.
I have it on page 41, but I'm not sure we're all working on the same passage. It's the first budget that's laid out in detail.
Yeah, it's page 7 of my package.
Okay.
It says page 6 of 24 on mine.
Okay, yeah, go to the next one. That information page is pretty blank because there is no requisition.
Page 7 of 24.
Yeah, so page 7 is the preliminary budget for 2022. We are using all of the available reserve funds for 2022 to try to accommodate the projects that have just been approved by the board in December. So there are signage projects, and we still have to figure out how these projects are going to be conducted, but all of the available funding is in this service budget. And if there is more funding needed, I believe requisitioning for that amount that we know is needed in 2023 is preferable to requisitioning for something we don't know if we will need as yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't put in a requisition for 2022. This service has had very little activity. So to requisition for something that we're not sure if we're going to be spending when there is no activity is not really my preference. So any questions on the civic addressing budget?
I appreciate your comments, and your thinking makes sense to me. I would like to do better in Area B anyway with some of the civic addressing and actually be active in providing some of those really high quality signs that we see in certain places. But that's a discussion for another time. On page, actually don't have any more questions. Does Director Mack? No. Okay, move on to the next topic then, please. Thank you, Director LaFrance.
Thank you. So we'll go to the next page, and it's the Building Inspection Services Assessment page, which shows the total requisition allocated between each area. And you'll be able to see the changes in the assessment here a little clearer from 2021 revised roll to the 2022 completed roll, and how it'll affect your area's taxation potentially. So area A has a decrease. Area B is pretty much flat. So is area C, and area D does have an increase due to assessment changes. So these are all allocated based on assessments. And you'll see that even though the requisition remains flat to 2021, the same 237,845, the tax rate does decrease from 0.07 to 0.06. And that's due to the assessment base increase. And we'll go to the next page. And this is the very preliminary first draft of the Building Inspection Services budget. So we were able to keep this requisition flat as there was such an increase in building permit applications in 2021 that the total fees and charges so far are about 194,331 over budget. So we received, so most of that I've plugged into a transfer to reserve. And you can see that on the next page under the 2022 preliminary budget line for transfer to reserve, which is account 53,000. So 203,421 I've transferred to operational reserve due to the increase in fees and the reduction in expenses also. So we've saved in travel and training costs due to just still working virtually.
Right, and just so I can keep up, Ms. LaFrance, are you looking at 10 of 24 on your report right now? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I've lost track. So for this budget, I'll discuss just line by line from the top now. So for the revenues, I've budgeted the average of the last 3 years for the building permit application fees. And this is just to ensure that we're not assuming that next year will be another booming year, but it could be. It's better to be a little bit conservative with the budgets. So the average of the last 3 years was used for all the application fees. And then we'll go to the expenses. So salaries does include the new position for a building clerk that hasn't been recruited as yet. It was included in the 2021 budget. So it's not a new amount, but I've updated it to be 10 months of 2022 for this new position versus 6 months, which was budgeted as 6 months in 2021. So that's why you do see an increase in the salary line. So I've budgeted for a full travel year, assuming that, you know, the pandemic will ease and travel will be more prominent. And pretty much everything else is similar to previous budgets, I did increase the legal budget from last year was 4,717, which is an odd number. And this year is 10,000 even, just to ensure we have enough to cover for any other building inspection legal issues that can crop up within the year. And any questions on the building inspection budget?
Director, any questions? No? Okay. So now you're moving to,
So yeah, now we'll move to the next budget, which is elections UBCM. And the first page of this budget is the assessments and the allocation of the requisition.
right?
And the next page shows the 2022 preliminary budget. I've already mentioned there's a small 4% increase in the requisition. This doesn't affect the tax rate so far, like the residential taxpayer shouldn't see this increase if their assessments have increased with the average. If their assessments increased greater than the average, they could see an increase. And we've estimated in the expenses in the 2022 budget the elections costs. These are subject to change, but this is what we typically budget for elections, and we'll review this for the next budget meeting. And I included, the next page shows the 5-year span. So I included this to show how the reserve balance is affected. So there's transfer from reserve in 2022 for the 2022 election. And then in 2023 and on, there's transfer to reserve until 2026, which is the next elections, which is another transfer from reserve to be able to have all the budget for the expenses needed for the 2026 elections. Any questions on elections UBCM budget? Oh, I forgot to mention UBCM, I did budget as if it was going to be a live event and not virtual. Okay. We'll go to emergency planning. So the first page of this budget shows the requisition change and the allocation change. So you'll see that the estimated residential tax rate, which in 2021 is 0.788, becomes 0.736, so a slight decrease in 2022. And we'll go to the next page, which is the actual preliminary budget. Just looking for items to note. Basically, I've plugged in $100,000 for 2022's EMBC tasks. So that's the Emergency Management BC tasks that will happen throughout the year. So it's just a plug in revenues and expenses. As the budget, we do have to make sure that we have enough budgeted so we don't have to amend the budget in the future. And then I also added $500,000 for potential grants. So we don't have an exact number at this point, but this number could change. It's basically a plug in revenues and expenses for 100% grant funded projects that happen throughout the year and that are applied for throughout the year.
So I'm just, is this, are we seeing a dramatic increase in this budget overall, given, or are we doing quite well with all of the grants that are coming in? I mean, I know the staff has certainly been working a lot.
Yeah, so the grants are 100% funded for the most part, and the ones
Right.
that aren't are usually the ones that are for the fuel management projects, which use reserves or other grant funding. So everything is 100% funded, so that you won't see any hit to the
Right.
bottom line for the emergency planning for those grants. I'm not sure if Sarah is able to jump onto the line, but there was a request for potentially a part-time support worker for emergency planning that is not in this budget right now. And so that could be added next it depends on how the positions will be divided and added for 2022. There was quite a big ask of multiple positions for 2022. So I don't know if Melanie, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, please do, CAO Helmer.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So yes, there's a couple things. First of all, last year there was approval for 6 months out of 2022 to insert a regional fire chief who would partly be supporting the electoral areas and those fire departments, our current volunteer fire departments, as well as the ones where we have a contribution only service. And looking at the upcoming legislative changes that are expected, as well as the direction that we're expecting from the Office of the Fire Commissioner. That is not yet available, but it is scheduled that there will be a staff report coming to forward on that once that information is available. And there will be a discussion which will be brought to the board in close to look at any changes for staff levels for the various departments. And with protective services, one of the factors, which is there's actually two major factors which need to be looked into and given consideration by yourselves and by the rest of the board. The first is that our EOC activation level this year was well over 100 days of active. And if you look at how many working days there are in a year in relation to how much of our time the EOC was activated, it was almost half of the equivalent of working days. And when we looked at it, there were over 3 FTEs across the organization who were dedicated to EOC response activities during the course of the activations this year. So that's had a significant impact, most specifically on protective services, as well as on the SLRD and the work plans of all of the departments across the organization. And the expectation based on EMBC and the other professionals is that with climate change and these other factors, that's probably going to be a normal trend, and that when we look at it ourselves, we breathed a big sigh of relief that we were not impacted to the great degree that some of the other parts of the province were, like Lytton and like the Fraser Valley with the recent atmospheric river events. So it is something that we need to give some thought and planning around, and we'll be coming forward at the board level for further discussion and consideration. So that position is not in there now, but it will be presented for your consideration that this would be advisable. The other piece that goes with it is that at this point, we don't have a regional district ESS person, and there's often a need for ESS level support. From our organization, we're looked to as the regional leader, and we end up supporting our member municipalities as well as the rural areas in that regard, but we don't have a person to do it, although most local governments do. We have a legislative requirement to meet that requirement, but right now it's been sort of piecemealed, and we do outsource to the Red Cross, who's a great organization to partner with, but they only do their piece. So that still leaves the piece within our EOC and within our organization that needs to be addressed. So that's where that piece comes from that Director LaFrance was referring to. And I expect that we'll provide you with some more detailed information and have a good discussion on that at the board level, because the benefit is not just for the electoral area directors, it's also for the member municipalities for sure. And there's a larger and larger coordination piece that the RD is being looked to with respect to emergency planning, emergency response, resiliency, all of those pieces. So there needs to be a broader discussion also about what would be a fair apportionment of the costs, since the benefits are being apportioned that way. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Thank you, Chair.
I look forward to that discussion. Thank you very much for those comments, CEO Helmer, because we certainly have some more work and some gaps and some ideas for the North. And yeah, so good that that's in the near future. And I see Director Rainbow's hand.
Not a question, but a comment. I would support a move to increase the staff that is part of the emergency services team. You know, we've done very well this year with managing the issues that we had to manage, but our CAO was involved to a tremendous extent. Other staff people were drafted from their regular work to do this, and that hurts us as an organization. It's a sort of a false economy. So I would support having somebody, an extra person at least in that, maybe 2 extra people in emergency services.
And I would certainly second that.
Located in B.
I don't care where they are, just
Wherever.
where they're needed.
Okay, well, that's good. Is that a proper motion, or could we just consider that sort of some general direction?
I don't think I need a motion, to make a motion because
I
it's
don't think
coming
so.
from discussion with the board, but I'm just
Right.
noting I would support a move in that direction.
Yes, okay. Good. Yeah, please continue, Suzanne.
And just so when these salaries are drilled down, that salary line will be adjusted, 50110 in expenses, it's the first line, but also the recovery line will be adjusted. So the recovery is 40240, which is on the very near the top of the budget. Time allocation to other services. Right now it's budgeted as per last year, but this will increase when we know what the allocation will be of these new people between general government and the new. So both the salary and the recovery will be adjusted for next run. And I will also advertise this to the public for consultation next meeting. So the next February meeting and the March meeting will be advertised for public consultation. And hopefully by that time, the full draft budget will be available as well. So the next budget is so following the emergency planning budget is just a list of all of the grant projects, because there are so many of them. So you can clearly see the revenue lines and the expense lines that total to the difference. There's very small minor variances in grant funding that we just, we accrue a certain amount, but we don't receive, 50 cents. So we have to have the small variance, but we don't journalize those small variances. So the last budget is the Electoral Areas Community Park Service. There isn't a requisition for this service, and all of the expenses other than the admin fee, the legal charges, and I think that is it. And a small time allocation is through the surplus carry forward each year, and everything else is through amenity funds or other grant funds. So those grant funds show on the revenue, and then the expenses show below. So for things like the Anderson Lake Dock, Seton Park time allocation, these are all recovered through other means and not through requisition or through this cost center. Any questions on the community parks cost center?
Director Rainbow?
Suzanne, you noted that there is no requisition for this. Would it be worth considering, or what would we have to do to implement a requisition?
Well, we certainly can put through a requisition. The issue is all of the different areas currently would pay for it based on their assessment and not based on what will actually be used. So, for example, if you don't have a community park and we put through a requisition, you're taxing your constituents for something that they don't have. You know what I'm saying? So we were looking at separating this Community Park Service into 4 electoral area services. And that is still on the work plan. However, we haven't been able to initiate that project. So that would alleviate that issue. So once we have them separated, the Area A parks will requisition based on their needs for their parks, and the Area B, so on, versus just trying to get everybody to be requisitioning for their parks in one lump sum, which doesn't quite work.
Yeah, I recall the discussion we had about that, and you're saying it's still part of the work plan, but we haven't got to it yet. But we are intending to go in that direction. I'd like to have some money available in Area D to use on parks and trails and things like that. So it seems what you're saying is the only way we could do that is tax people in Area D for it, which I think is fair enough.
I support the idea of separating it into 4 separate services as well for the electoral area.
Yeah, and I do too, so
When you get
agree
there,
unanimous.
it's been pretty stagnant. There's been other priorities, I get that, but I support that direction, definitely. Obviously, 3 of us do, yeah.
As would I.
Thank you.
Half of A.
Thank you, A.
And
So then-
that's all I have for
it?
my budget discussion, unless there's more questions. Oh, and Melanie.
Yep, CAO Helmer, please. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just taking a look back at the decision that had been made before. And it looks like both B and C are on that list, but at this point, areas D and A are not. So if it was the desire of the committee to add those, then I would suggest a recommendation to the board that they be added and then be prioritized as to when that work would be completed.
And now, if I'm understanding this, do you mean the work of the separating into the 4 electoral areas and requisitioning accordingly? Am I following that? Yes.
That's correct, Chair, because it requires
Okay.
a new service establishment bylaw for the separate electoral, for each separate electoral area for that to occur.
Okay. Director Rainbow.
I think it makes sense to do all 4 areas, because with the bylaw, the main part of the bylaw wouldn't not be the same for every area. The wording of the bylaw, with just, you know what I'm saying? It's not 4 completely separate requisition, whatever you call them, but it would be 1 for each area, and just certain parts of it would be specific to the area, but it would save staff time to do all 4 at once, I would think.
Through the chair, yes, there would definitely be some efficiencies gained by doing all 4 at the same time. There may be some differences between the different electoral areas as to what they would like to see the bylaw contain, but they would be substantially the same. And the more similar they are, the easier it would be for consistency across the regional district. So yes, there's definitely, I definitely agree with that assessment. Thank you, Chair.
So I'll make a resolution to that effect, that we deal with all 4 at the same time.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Is that clear with everyone? Anyone opposed? Yes, Kristen.
Thanks,
Ms.
Chair.
Clark.
So this is a resolution to create a recommendation to the board for service establishments for area A. Sorry, we already have 2 on the books, so bear with me. Director CO Helmer, if you have that, the 2 that are on the books are C and B. I believe.
Yes, that's correct. We have Electoral Area B Community Park and Electoral Area C Community Park. So we would be adding Electoral Area A Community Park and Electoral Area B Community Park. And the further piece that went with it is that they be done concurrently.
Sorry, A and D, right? Okay.
Yes, A for Apple and D for Donald.
So Kristen, would you like to read that so we're clear, please?
Sure. So so that there be a service establishment for community park for area A and area D, similar to the ones that were passed for B and C previously,
Perfect.
and then that these be done concurrently, and then that this be brought forward for prioritization by the board as to timing of commencing that work.
Okay. That makes perfect sense to me. Is anyone opposed to that? Nope. Okay. Motion carried. Thank you.
Oh, you're muted, Vivian.
Thank you. We need to receive these draft budgets, I believe. Okay. Director
I'll move
Rainbow
that.
has,
Second.
okay. Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Rainbow. No one in. Motion carried. Receive those drafts. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your work on this, Ms. LaFrance, and I really appreciate your notes. They help me immensely. Thank you. 7.7? On the regulatory signage on SLRD. Oh, I see CAO Helmer. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have Ms. McDonald to join us for this one.
Yes, thank you. We'll wait for Allison McDonald. I was disappointed once from Transport Canada. Welcome, Ms. McDonald, and please proceed with your comments. We are talking about the regulatory signage on SLRD lakes and the
Morning.
update. Thanks.
Thank you. Allison McDonald, Parks and Trails Coordinator. Thank you. This report is a repeat. We brought it back from the November meeting where the board resolved at the November meeting, we provided recommendation that we construct some signs. The board gave us direction to increase the amount of consultation we're doing with First Nations and the Lajoie Lake Ratepayers Association. The 4 lakes where we are required to put up speed limit signs are Kwantmanimo Lake in Area B, Lajoie Lake in Area A, Lucille and Levitt Lakes in Electoral Area D. So it kind of spans the region except for Area C. So we have brought back an expanded consultation timeline and plan along with a budget which will look at putting 2 signs up at each location. One is the required sign from Transport Canada, which we cannot change. We wanted to provide additional information, who to contact, and more information on the regulations. So that would have to be a separate sign at each location. The signs aren't that expensive, but still it doubles up the cost of the signs. So our new updated budget, including staff time for the consultation and the additional requirements for signs, would be about $2,682. So this is an information report that just sort of outlines our plans and our next steps and the updated budget as required by the board. And I'm happy to answer any question.
Disappointed in Transport Canada's response. Maybe two signs can go on the same pole.
Yeah.
They just start to introduce clutter, and it just looks so ugly when there's too many different signs also. But anyway, that's just aesthetics. I mean, you've certainly done what we asked you to. Thank you. And I'm happy with the way you're planning to proceed as far as Area B goes and Hacklip and as part of that rec project. So perfect.
Thank you.
I'm looking for other comments. Area A and D are also involved with signage here. I think this is the best we can do under the circumstances. Thank you for your report. I'd like to that we accept this report, receive this report.
Yeah, I'll move that. We receive it.
Okay, good. Seconded by Director Rainbow. No one, anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And there's some activity with the rec site at Quatlanimo, and they're looking for a graphic artist to help with some of their signage around the frogs, the western toads, in fact. And we've linked up with the hub in town, and maybe by consulting with Hacklip, if we get pulled into that signage project, that's all to the good. So good
Great.
luck.
It's good timing on that one for sure.
It might be. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item 7.8 are electoral area priorities and aspirational strategic plans.
Yeah, Chair, Area C is good as is for now.
Thank you. Area D?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. And anything from A, Karen?
Yeah, obviously this is something that Val would want to comment on just from
Keep her-
his perspective. So, but I see that it's a quarterly thing, so presumably he'll be able to look at that and comment at the next quarter.
He will. He will.
But there's nothing there that makes me go, oh no. So
I just have a question, Chair.
Yeah.
From 3 Upper Squamish bylaw enforcement, there's a yellow line. What? I'm not sure what that means.
CAO Helmer? Could you answer that? I'm not sure.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to find, I think there was some highlighting there and it didn't get removed when this got printed. My apologies.
So there should be Ys there, shouldn't there? Yeah, because it's being actioned.
Yes, that's correct. It is on the work plan. It is being actioned.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Thank you.
I do have one addition for Area B underneath number 1, fire services, right at the top. Kristen, recovery and rehabilitation, post-fire and weather events, and support the work of Flinroe and First Nations on that. That moves right to the top of our priorities in B. With that addition, I'd like to move receipt.
Well, second that.
I'm not sure if receipt's the right, I'd like to move approval of those as amended. Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm getting the nod. All right. I'd like to move approval of those as amended. And I heard Russell Mack say seconded. Anyone opposed? Okay. That is carried. And 8.1 has been deleted. We're looking
No.
at, that's the one on Paradise Valley traffic.
Oh, 8.1 I have here is the metal bin for Divine.
Oh. Okay, sorry. I think I just missed a page. Sorry. I just skipped an entire page. 8.1. Divine, Director Mack. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to move this, but I'd also like to comment. We had one metal bin come in already, and it got filled up and left. The second one was supposed to come in, but for some reason, it was put off till the springtime. So what I want to do is I want to have 2 metal bins in the fall and 2 metal bins in the springtime. And because we're doing a great job in cleaning up the whole area of all scrap metal and such. The thing is, the bins are about $750, I believe. And I think we're getting around $500 to $600 in return for the metal. So it's not costing us a lot of money. And this money is coming out of various C Select funds. So anyways, it's just a program that we started. I believe this is our 3rd year for sure, possibly 4th, but it's been very popular and it's working really well. So I want to continue that, and I want to make sure we have the 2 bins spring and fall. So anyways, I'll move that 8.1 as is.
Got it. Seconded.
Thank you.
Yeah, bravo. Any opposition? Motion carried. Thank you. Point 2 is also Director Matt Birkin Fireworks. Oh no, not fireworks. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
That's already been done. That was the New Year's Eve event they have each year. So I will move that.
Seconder?
$5,000.
Okay. Yes, Karen Playfair is seconding it. Good. Any opposition? Motion carried. And Pemberton Meadows fire truck repairs, item 8.3.
Yep, I'll move that, please. 8,000 from area C Select funds.
To the Pemberton Meadows Fire Association for repairs to its fire truck. I can second that. Any opposition? Motion carried. And the Spud Valley Nordic Association, Director Mack.
Yeah, I'd like to put 3,000 from Electoral Area C Select funds towards the help replacing the cost of their stolen trailer and equipment. This is a tremendous organization, and yeah, it's sad that somebody had to do that, but we need to make sure they get their equipment back up to speed for what they do. So I will move that.
I'll second that. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. And again, Director Mack, reimbursement of snow removal costs on Upper Meadows Road.
Yes, I'll move that up to $1,500.
Okay, seconded by me. Oh, Director Clark has a comment.
Thank you. And that's upon submission of receipts, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
That's the snow. Sorry. Yes, Director Playfair.
I had a question just in terms of those types of requests upon receipts is great, but is there anything else that's required to say, hey, I actually did this snow removal? I mean, I guess the snow is gone, but
yeah, exactly.
To say, yeah, that work was done.
Yeah, no, we definitely monitor that, and the residents of the area definitely. I get comments constantly that this work is being done, and it should be being done by the contractor, Miller Capilano, but they're not doing it. So from a safety standpoint and getting school buses and whatnot, we've got a private citizen that's went and bought a grader and is doing it himself. So it's a great service to the community.
Any other comments or questions? Director Rainbow?
Just a question for Russell. You're saying that Miller Cap are not doing it. Should they be doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've talked to them. I've talked to our MLA, and and also our new MOT area rep. Yeah, they're just a horrible contractor, to be honest with you. They do the bare minimum, and they don't have the needed equipment or necessary equipment. The previous contractor used to run with 12 plow trucks. Excuse me. These guys are trying to do it with 6. It's impossible. They never have 6 because 1 or 2 are always broken down. So anyways, this is just something that's being done in the meantime because we have to have the road open for safety reasons and getting the kids to school and getting emergency equipment up there if necessary. So our MLA is working on it as well as myself. So
the reason is I've just had some complaints from Britannia Beach where Miller Cap are not plowing some roads. And it seemed to me that they're all Ministry of Transport roads, and so their contractors should be taking care of it.
Yep.
So you've got the same problem, and
they're horrible, Tony. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Huh. Okay, thank you.
I don't see anyone. That motion was moved and seconded, and no one is opposed. Motion carried. Item 8.6, MOTI Summer Road Maintenance Specifications. Now, this is Director Demare. Karen?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't comment on this other than I've read that it looks like it's just a recommendation. There's no money at this point attached, but that seems like a reasonable thing.
And I'm good to that as it is, as presented. That we send the correspondence. This is something that we're going to recommend to the board, I would imagine. Yes, SLRD
Yes,
board.
correct. Yep.
Send correspondence to. So moved by Director Playfair, seconded by me. Is anyone opposed? Motion carried. And the next one, just let me get there. Select Appreciation Fund for Minto Communications. Okay.
And
I'll move this.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Playfair. Anyone opposed? Yes. Kristen Clark. Yes.
Sorry. Thanks, Chair. I was just wondering if this has already been. Has this already been spent, or is this something that?
Yeah, and I'm sorry because I'm behind the 8 ball on this and haven't had a chance to chat with Sal. I don't know the answer.
CAO Helmer knows. Please,
yes, sure, I do. Thank you. Yes, this was monies that were already spent in 2021 from the area appreciation fund, the $500 amount that's permitted per year. It was provided to them already. So this would be for the committee to receive that that money has been provided to this organization for this purpose.
Okay, in that case, I should back up and we should receive this report as something that's already been done. So moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Playfair. Does that work? Anyone opposed? Carried. So that's received. Similarly with 8.8, that is money that's already been spent in Area B. I'd like to move that report be received.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carried. And I'm sorry that you're not happy with your highway services in C and D, but our guys up here have been working like demons, and I was really happy to provide some appreciation to them. Area
Yeah,
C,
very good.
yeah, C Appreciation Fund.
Yeah,
Wreath,
I'll move that.
Okay, and this is, I think this one is to receive as well. Has this also been spent?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second that. Anyone opposed? Motion carried to receive that. So now we're on the next page, and 8.10 was removed. So we're looking at 9, correspondence for action, request for funding, Marshall Valley Community Association.
Yeah, I've talked to Sal about this, and so I would move this on his behalf.
Okay, good. And
I would certainly second that.
okie doke. Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Playfair, and I saw Director Rainbow indicating support. All in favor, none opposed. Motion carried. 9.2, I can move this one, a request for funding District of Lillooet for the rec center. This is funding $1,600 from Electoral Area B Select Funds pending a successful grant application, and I sure hope we are successful. We desperately need the sound system improved here. I'll move that.
And I'll second it.
Thanks, Director Mack. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Late business, we have 11.1.
Yeah. And I'll move that.
$500.
Same thing, yep. Up to $500 for fuel used for snow removal for Jason Higginbottom.
And would you like that with reimbursed with receipts, Director Mack?
Yes, yeah, with receipts.
Okay, I can second that. Anyone opposed? Okay. That motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. I hope we get to see you at the next meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
And Sal too. And
Have we
I don't know
got-
our chair who's going to come on. Okay. Late business. We just covered it. Are there any director's notice of motion? I don't believe so.
Well, I think I should make a motion here. This is very disappointing to be finishing so early because I told my wife I was busy all day. No,
If you want to hang around, Tony, by all means do so.
oh dear.
Well,
No.
I'm glad the conditions out there look absolutely terrible. We get to go to Kamloops this afternoon. So, okay.
Yeah,
Did I hear a motion to adjourn from Director?
To adjourn.
I did. Okay. And no one
okay, so Vivian, drive
Yes.
carefully.